Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Things Private Practice podcast. I'm joined today by Liz Ridgway. She is an LCSW, a licensed therapist, speaker, mental health consultant, and content creator, specializing in the wellness of elite athletes, high performers, and creatives. Based in Philadelphia and NYC, Liz brings a modern, culturally aware approach to mental health, making her a trusted voice for individuals and organizations looking to prioritize emotional well-being in high-pressure spaces. As the founder of MENTL.SESH, Liz leads a private practice that provides individual therapy and mental health support to athletes, entertainers, entrepreneurs, and creatives. This includes working with the MLB and NASCAR athletes and personnel, helping them navigate performance pressure, identity, recovery, and the mental demands of competing in the world's biggest stages. She also partners with brands and companies to design, interactive, and deliver workshops, keynotes, and mental health strategy consulting. Our consulting work includes collaborations with leading global brands such as Meta, Adidas, StockX, Champion, and more, providing training on topics like burnout prevention, identity beyond achievement, and building a culture of mental wellness. Super cool. So, also designed the Nike Air Max 270 React in my feels, the first sneaker to center mental health in both name and narrative. Do you ever think you would be doing this back when you were in grad school at NYU?
No, not at all. I wanted to be in a hospital doing clinical outpatient social work, which is
Mm,
not where I ended up.
yeah, you get like spit on enough or maybe attacked enough in those spaces and paid $40,000 a year, and it's no longer an appealing option.
Yep. Yep.
So, w- what leads you to where you are today in terms of like, a lot of people who listen to this podcast are more entrepreneurial. So, we're thinking outside of the box, moving beyond one on one therapy outside of the therapy spaces. But a lot of people don't know how to do the things I just listed off. And you've created some big accomplishments, like working with some huge brands and athletes and um, people who have a lot of pressure on them and a lot of eyes on them at all times. And I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, that sounds amazing that you have gotten to do these things. So take us on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually from a very small town in Pennsylvania where most people don't typically leave. You kind of stay, you get married at a young age, and you just kind of continue that cycle. I wanted just a different path. So after I graduated from undergrad, I moved to New York City for my master's. I went to NYU. Um, and throughout that journey, I was exposed to a lot of different things. My entire life, I was an athlete. I played basketball, soccer, softball, and then in college, I played softball and basketball. So sports have always been a huge part of who I am and how I kind of see the world around me. And I've always been like a diehard Philadelphia sports fan. So that's kind of rooted in everything I do as well. But ultimately, after grad school, I started working for a nonprofit doing FFT therapy and doing in-home therapy, which honestly burnt me out very quickly. Uh, it was brutal, and anyone that knows the in-home work it's an experience. From there, I moved to a foster care organization doing TFCBT. And over the course of those about 3 years, I realized that I loved what I did, but I didn't feel whole. I was kind of living like two separate lives. This girl who like loved sports and sneakers. I've been collecting sneakers since I was probably 10. And then going and doing social work for my career. And there was never like any crossover, and it just felt very weird because a lot of my friends were in creative industries and no one kind of understood the nature of the work I did, and it was really hard to just kind of talk with my friends outside of work.
Sure.
So along that way, my husband actually works in marketing, and he was like, you just need an outlet. So I started kind of posting on my Instagram back in like 2015, my sneaker collection, and going to sporting events and just style. Like I don't look like I care now, but I normally love to get a good game day fit off and have so much fun just expressing myself through my style. And he was like, you need an outlet. So I started posting like my style, my sneaker collection, never really talked at all about being a therapist or working as a social worker online. And I kind of, talked a lot about this with my therapist at the time. And she's like, well, just because other clinicians and other people that are mental health professionals online aren't posting about that doesn't mean you can't. So it kind of changed my perspective a lot because I kind of felt like if I needed to show up as a therapist online, I had to fit into a box. I had to have the kind of very similar aesthetic. I had to post about the same types of things. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that because I just felt like there was no separation between my life and work. So I started kind of connecting the dots between sneakers and style and mental health just for fun. And it grew my following. It led me to have some really cool opportunities. Fast forward to 20, I think 19, I had Nike reached out. We worked on a sneaker together for mental health awareness, and it was kind of a full circle moment, which then eventually led to a lot of other partnerships. And that's eventually kind of what led me into realizing that you can bring more of who you are into this work. You can think outside the box, and it's okay that not everyone's going to understand or agree with it, but it feels more fulfilling to do that. So led me to different product collaborations, consulting, and then eventually launching MENTL.SESH, which is my private practice where I work with primarily high performers, athletes, and creatives, and have kind of been able to bring it full circle through, just owning who I am and not really giving a shit about what other people thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. That's a cool little snapshot too. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that mentality of like, grad school has told me I have to be a certain way.
Mhm.
All the colleagues that maybe I surround myself with say the same things. And you really do start to believe it of like, there's only one way to be a therapist. There's only one way to show up. I've got to wear like cardigans and I've got to like repost the same trauma graphics that everyone else is posting. And in reality, like how often is that relatable? How often does that land for everybody who's looking for support? And the answer is like hardly ever. And it
Yeah.
just feels like very generic, very recycled. And I think it's oftentimes because so many of us have had zero conversation about marketing, about branding, about business ownership, because I think our profession does us a disservice by almost like trying to push you away from business ownership. And they're like, no, that's not for you. Or you don't get into this to make any money at all. It's just self sacrifice. And
Mhm.
it's just a recipe for constant burnout and exhaustion.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, trying to just fit into a mold that if that's not who you are, it eventually also creates resentment toward your career because you're just like, I'm showing up, I'm not looking forward to this. I don't like this kind of code switching or this mask I have to wear in order to fit in. And I think for me, a lot of it too was, there's a big generational difference where at the time, like I felt like a lot of people making decisions or people that I wanted to earn respect from were people who just didn't use social media in that way because generationally they didn't grow up with social media in the same way that I did. And I think
Sure.
like trying to be accepted by them, but also trying to then, attract the type of client that I want to work with in private practice is they're two different people. And I had to come to accept that if people are going to look at me just based on my social media, that kind of is the opposite of what our profession really, one like promotes. And as well as I'm out here trying to help my clients show up as the best version of themselves. And if I don't do that, like who am I to be, telling these people how to live, like how to help them and live their lives in that way. So it just kind of felt a little hypocritical to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's well said. And I think, in 2026, we have this like era and culture of social media therapists and therapists who are building brand recognition and visibility outside of the therapy space. I mean, I think about a colleague and friend, Jeff Gunther, who's
Mm,
got millions of followers on
yeah.
social media and is beloved or
Hmm.
potentially hated
Yeah.
in a lot of those spaces. And he's been on this podcast several times. And I just think about some of the things he was talking to me about in some of those episodes and just the realization of there's so much more outside of the traditional therapy space. And we have skills that are applicable in all areas of life.
Hmm.
And we just often don't know how to apply them. We can talk very confidently about like how to do treatment interventions and how to navigate crisis response. But in reality, like how often are we thinking about how our skill sets and our education and our lived experience also helps create a more holistic picture of what
Mhm.
we can offer society. And that can be very individualized, as you're sitting here saying, like, I've worked with NASCAR and Nike and was it the MLB?
Mhm.
And the MLB, and just like how many therapists get to say that? I don't really think that many people get to say those are a part of my experiences and my career path. And that's really, really cool.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is honestly like who I am. I love NASCAR. I love baseball. I'm a diehard Phillies fan. And it's ironic because some of the teams that I, work with as a therapist are, technically rivals, but it's being able to kind of shift that, mentality when you're working with
Sure.
your clients and not wanting to sabotage everything, but at the same time it's cool because it's something I genuinely love as a human, and it helps me show up even better clinically when I do have to show up that way.
Yeah, it feels much more aligned. So you can be more authentically you, which
Mm.
is going to create more passion, right? Behind whatever you're marketing or trying to obtain. And it's going to kind of create that orbit. So I want to ask you a bunch of sports questions, but we can save that for a different time. Although I would love to know who you think the Eagles should hire as an offensive coordinator. But
Oh, brutal.
brutal is real. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very, very real. So um I think that a lot of people listening are probably like, wow, this sounds amazing. How the hell do I start any of this? Like,
Mm.
if I wanted to pursue a career with maybe attracting different types of clients, maybe pitching myself in situations where I feel uncomfortable or unqualified, what would be your advice in that scenario?
Yeah, I think for one, you know what I would suggest is really sit down and kind of write down a list. And I'm big on writing things down, making a vision board, doing things like that, because it also just kind of helps you, have a direction as far as what goals you want to go toward. But write down a list, a vision board of the brands, the type of clients that you want to work with, that you want to attract. Because also then you have a list of, hey, these are the people that I can now go on LinkedIn, find the marketing people, find the people that I need to connect with, ask those people to get coffee. What I would recommend is form human connections with people at these companies. Don't
Yeah.
just blindly reach out and say, hey, I'm so and so, and here's my media kit and I want to work together. It is really relational. A lot
Sure.
of that work for me was at the time when I lived in New York City, I was going to events constantly. And like, yes, I was getting invited to a lot of like fashion week events and a lot of events that weren't clinical at all, but it helped me create a network that is so vast that has nothing to do with therapy and mental health. A lot of my connections are sports agents. They're people in the marketing departments of different brands, from PR agencies, from marketing agencies, from all the people. They're all the people that are going to hire me to do the jobs that I get to do. But a lot
Right.
of it was putting myself out there in in a world that like I can't relate to a lot of people because I can't go and talk about work and have this conversation. Oh, works, fashion week's tough. It's just different, but
Sure.
learning about what they do and finding the common ground between the two of us. And then eventually saying, like, hey, I would really like to figure out a way we can work together. And this is what I do when it comes to mental health. And, you see a lot of brands today, especially after 2020 and COVID, wanting to have these conversations online about mental health. So for a lot of it is forming the relationships, genuinely asking people for coffee, Zoom calls, whatever you can, just to form a human connection to create a media kit for yourself. Now, that can look a lot of different ways depending on what you want to do, but usually, like mine right now, has to do a lot with my engagement on social, as well as it shows speaking engagements, like whatever you want to do. So if you want to do content partnerships, you're going to need your social analytics. If you want to do speaking engagements, you're going to probably want links to other opportunities that you've done in the past to kind of showcase your work. You want to have like this media kit essentially as your resume of the things you've done outside of the clinical realm. If you want to do consulting, what you've done in the past for consulting, and have a nice designed, clean kind of media kit that you can share. And then lastly, I would say is, really try to, when you pitch to brands, bring them the idea. Like a lot of the times when I'm pitching to brands, like if they have the budgets and you're saying, hey, I see you have this product that you're about to release, or if you are thinking of including mental health or wellness in your, you know, content or any campaigns later this year, here's how I can get involved and kind of help, one, from a liability standpoint, two, from an expertise that I can provide and give you, and three, you know, sometimes I'll do like creative um, kind of creative collaboration or creative consulting with them. So, like, for example, I've worked with brands in the past who are putting out sneakers, and I worked during the design phase of the sneakers were for mental health, but how can we make this shoe an actual tool? So whether it like included sensory materials or different phrases or you know, incorporations on the shoe that would help someone's mental health. Um, so things like that. But I think if you bring them the idea and it fits with their goals, and you also would understand those goals based on having those conversations from those relationships you're building, you can then most of the time, if they have the budget, so like, all right, let's try it out. Let's, you know, figure out how this works. And yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So relationship building is foundational, right? And I think what you said is really important is that a lot of therapists only surround themselves with other therapists. You mentioned kind of creating this like vast network because you are around a lot of different types of people in that experience in New York City. And I think that's really, really important. And I see that happen way too often is where like therapist surrounds themselves with therapists who only thinks about these things as a therapist, doesn't think
Mhm.
about them in any other sense of like marketing, branding, business ownership, relationship building, and then is convinced there's only one way to do this work or there's only one way to accomplish this goal. So having those different perspectives is freaking huge. And I like what you said. Like if you can't go out to meet people for coffee in person, invite them to a virtual coffee meet and greet or just like a call just to get a sense of who they are. Because otherwise you're just like almost like cold calling and just blasting the same message out into the
Mhm.
internet without a lot of response. It's always going to work a lot better if it's personable, if there's
Yeah.
relationship behind it. And then like you said, building that brand kit. And if you're like, I don't know how to do that right now, that feels impossible. Canva is really easy to use. And there are lots of strategies and tools out there and ways that you can do that on your own at first. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like you can fine tune it, you can edit it, you can improve it, but at least taking the steps to get these things started so that then you can feel a little bit more confident when you maybe develop these relationships and start to put this stuff in front of people.
Yeah. I think too, just having like realistic expectations. Like sometimes these partnerships don't happen immediately. Like it is a year or 2 years of investing your, you know, energy into these relationships to really see a turnaround on that. Like I go to MBA All-Star Weekend typically every year for, you know, in the past it was for clients and now it's a mix of clients and for brand partnerships and, you know, different work opportunities. And there's been people that I've had coffees and lunches with that like now 3 years later, I have potentially a full or a part-time position for their apps that they're working on or different things, which
Right.
is really cool, but like it didn't happen immediately. And that's okay. I think that's just figuring out like will keep you in mind. It's just, you got to just stay consistent.
I love that. Yeah. I think that's really important. I mean, super cool that you're doing all this stuff. I mean, it's inspiring for me for sure. And I think for a lot of the people listening, because I'm sure a lot of you want to do more of this creative work and to push your brand and leverage and build relationships and get more visibility on the projects and things that you want to do. And I think it's a two-way street too. So not going into those relationships just solely seeking out like how can I work with this person or this company, but really making sure that you can bring your expertise, your personality, your lived experience, your um, thoughts and feelings about certain topics into these conversations. And that goes back to just being able to be yourself. And I think that's really a huge important part of this conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Just owning who you are. And you know, people now I guess have more of a understanding, but I'm not a therapist who's going to show up in a suit. I don't even think I own a suit or anything semi cardigans. No, throw them out. But I will have a fire pair of sneakers on. That is guaranteed. And so,
Mhm.
that is kind of the thing is like, this is who I am. And kind of thinking of myself as a brand, right? Like when I'm with my friends, I'm me, but like when I'm in any of those settings, like how I conduct myself, how I dress, like a lot of those things go into the branding of myself and Mental Sesh, which, is part of it. I think there's so many angles to forming your brand and what makes your brand unique or stand out, that we don't think of. It's not just like your website and your email signature. It's, the curation of your social media. It's the brands that you choose to wear or not choose to wear if you're someone that is into fashion. It's the people you associate yourself with, unfortunately. There's a lot of things that I think go into it that do play a role.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really well said. That's really well said. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. I have a hot seat question for you
Yeah.
that you may or may not want to answer. At the end of next season, is Nick Sirianni the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
I truly think it depends if AJ Brown is on the team next season or
Mm,
not.
mm.
I think AJ is going to be back.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know because we are running through offensive coordinators at this point. So I don't think he's gotta go far next season to even make that
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
I saw a stat the other day that Jalen Hurts has not had the same offensive coordinator since his sophomore year in Alabama. That is fucking
Hmm.
wild. I
Yeah.
think about that all the time, like the transition and change. Anyway, great answer. Good therapist answer, by the way. As a Bills fan, I'd love to have AJ Brown on the team. So we'd love to be thrown to someone other than Khalil Shakir and 300-year-old Brandon Cooks. But anyway,
I
whatever.
respect I respect Bills Mafia so much. I have a
Mhm.
couple friends that are Bills fans, and honestly, like that is a tailgate I need to go to. I need to get to a Bills tailgate. That's
I mean,
on my
listen,
bucket list.
you're not that far from Buffalo. I think that's attainable. You can watch people get suplexed through folding tables. I mean, they travel well, they show up well, and they support a lot of the community. So, a lot of respect out there for that. Anything you want to share with the audience about how they can find you, connect with you, work with you, any of those things?
Yeah. I mean, my Instagram account is Liz, the letter B, and then Croft. My maiden name is B Croft, Beecroft, but LB Croft was not available. So it's Liz B and then Croft, and then mental, MENTL.SESH, SESH is my private practice account. Same mentalsesh.com, my website. And yeah, we're working on some fun things for the year. And have a lot of different partnerships coming up with NASCAR that I'm really excited about. So I guess stay tuned for some of that stuff.
Cool. Yeah, that's exciting. And congrats on all the success
Thank
and
you.
continued success. We will have all of that information in the show notes so you have easy access to everything Liz just mentioned. Appreciate you coming on and making the time today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And to everyone listening to All Things Private Practice, new episodes are out on Saturdays on all major platforms and YouTube. Like, download, subscribe, share, doubt yourself, do it anyway. See you next week.